with Lorna Hawthorne that I am going through something. My aunt, the last in the line of the women in my family, died a few weeks ago now. And so I would like to honor her with dedicating this presentation to her. She was formidable in my life. I should just tell you I'm the first in my family ever to get a college degree. And she was part of making that happen. Okay, so the future of work and entrepreneurship for the underserved, and it's by me and my co-author that I mentioned, Jacqueline Kisato. But with this presentation, we're going to do a special presentation with Patricia, our friend, Senior VP from Customers Bank. And while, you know, in the other parts of the presentation, I was talking about setting up the problem, we all know the problem in terms of poverty and wealth and income disparities. So I didn't want to focus the bulk of my time on that. I wanted to focus the bulk of the time where we see, and that's our collaborators, in what we can do or what should be done to not eradicate, but make the allocation and the distribution of income and wealth a little bit different. So I start with saying, hope for the future of technology and entrepreneurial innovations for the underserved. And specifically, we want to look at that bottom 50% that we talked about and how can we raise them a little more into the middle class, and even some of the middle class, how can we raise them and how you're going to need to use technology to do it. There is hope for an economy of diversity and inclusion, of a broad base of talent using technology, such as, but not limited to, artificial intelligence, the cloud computing, Amazon Web Services. You know, they started out doing books. They transformed themselves into looking at the technology is just a means and not the product itself. 3D printing, virtual reality, and later, augmented reality. Instead of cloning homogeneous labor forces to support the demands of mass production, more diverse, creative, and agile entrepreneurial teams or persons will cost-effectively produce for niche markets, even as small as units of one. What makes Hamid Tajay's concept in his new book, Unscaled, How AI and the New Generation of Upstarts are Creating the Economy for the Future, hold exciting possibilities for the underserved who have limited access to private capital in the face of declining accessibility to public capital. So access to capital was always a problem. It will continue to be a problem. So how do we work around the problem? Right. All right. Tanger's vision of the new world has good and bad news. Okay, so there is some good news with the technology. In an interview, he tells of a future where technology will increase the lifespan of truck drivers. So you're gonna live longer. But those truck drivers may have no jobs. Now, because the technology will have developed, and I'm sure you've seen this already, self-driving vehicles. So if you got a self-driving vehicle, you don't need a truck driver. Okay, so later, Tandra cites multiple Silicon Valley experiments with universal income because the demand for labor globally is expected to significantly decline. We saw it yesterday at Akron, Ohio. Not only is there unemployment, but there's underemployment. While income can be shifted such that displaced labor is compensated financially, no one yet knows the impact of a lifetime of not working on an individual or society's sense of purpose. Just because somebody gives you some money doesn't make you fulfilled. Some of the younger people, the Gen X and the multi-millennials, they were saying, the money doesn't matter as much as my quality of life. I want to feel like I'm doing something. I want to feel like
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, cover that up now, please. Yeah, come over. Sorry. How will the new workforce be educated to meet the demands of this new AI world? The author posits that education too, so us educators, we have to be on notice, will become unscaled. So what do we mean by that? On-demand learning will be supported through a fusion of education and training to meet the unique demands of individuals. The Khan Academy was used as an example as well as other experiential experiments. AI will support education becoming optimized for the individual. Now I'm going to read you a quote from the book. It is the difference between making all our kids conform to a mass market education system and having an education system that conforms to your individual kid. He used kid, we can use child or adult. The coursework becomes individualized, conforming to each student's learning style and pace. We as educators know that there are many different learning styles, and we know that there's many different paces. But when we go into the classroom, we have one syllabus, and we try our best to meet the diverse needs of all of those students. And we heard yesterday from the wonderful panel how difficult it is and how many different tools the educators are using to try and meet the needs of all of those students. The sweet spot in the book, and my personal favorite, is the last chapter. The individual living your life as a personal enterprise. Here the author gets personal. He shares with the reader the range of alternatives, futures for his own 3 children. You know, a lot of us will talk about everybody else's children, but we don't want to talk about our own. He says, while his oldest may still go to college, because that is, you know, where his head is at, his youngest may not. Now, this is a venture capitalist, a multi-billion-dollar, not million-dollar, and he's telling us that his youngest child may not go to college, and this is why. Several workplace institutions are already giving preference to performance-based credential skills over the traditional, costly college degree. Many of you know some of the technology firms are asking for their certificates above and beyond the degrees, even if the degrees are required. So they're going to performance-based. They want to know if you say you can code, that you can code. And it is not just the degree that's speaking. And I'll give you one last quote. The way we think about our education will change because the way we think about work will change. The trend towards upscaling and unbundling work is only going to speed up. As an individual in the emerging unscaled economy, your best bet is not to fight the oncoming forces, but to take advantage of them. And by that what we mean is technology is not going anywhere. AI is not going anywhere. The cloud is not going anywhere. So how can we take the technology that is here with us and use it such that our students have advantages? And we believe that we can't do this alone. My next section is on unity and community and capacity building. The Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, OA, and the UN Office of High Commission on Human Rights in December, just December of 2018, met. And I happened to be at the meeting. The meeting was entitled Enhancing Cooperation Between the UN and Other Folks. And at the end of a full day of reporting by the delegates on poverty, joblessness, crime, and a full array of human rights violations by rich and poor countries, there was little hope for change in any business as usual solution. So if we continue to do what we've been doing, there is no hope for real transformation and change. Those in power who control capital and other factors of production continue to increase their share of white and black market gains. Because in Brazil, they talked about a lot of the drug economy, and it might not show up in the normal economy, but in the drug economy, there was a lot of wealth being done by those who were, criminals. So, so while there was some progress reported, it was overshadowed by the reality that far too many are being left behind in this technology-driven global world. In our assessment, the major outcome from the meeting was a general realization that the strategies of the past and not yield significant results for the poor everywhere. Not just in one country, but everywhere. There has been progress, but not enough for the growing populations that are being born into unjust economic systems that they did not create. Many of the poor worldwide, those babies have no choice in being born into poverty. The end of the consultation included promises to bring transformative change to the poor by leveraging diverse organizations from the bottom up, as the top-down approaches have just failed us. The end of the day yield commitments to send more recommendations for unity of the OAU and the UN, as they both celebrated decades of global humanitarian service. And so there were several areas. But I'm gonna start my conclusion now, because I want to leave some time for Ms. Rock. We now have a reliable data source, the one I talked to you about. Please Google it. It has a wealth of information, and not only does it have the current data, but it has forecasts of where the data is going. To consistently compare developed and developing countries' disparities in income. The data in the past told us that the rich were getting richer. However, the new data is able to track the pace and severity of the gaps within regions and between countries. The good news is that some countries are experiencing a slower rise in inequities. The bad news for us in the U.S. is that it will get worse if there is no substantive change. We continue to believe that strategies to increase the rate of entrepreneurship development within communities of the underserved will outpace other strategies for substantive economic change. As advanced technologies begin to shape a brave new world, there will be a decreasing demand for low-level labor functions and an increasing demand for higher-level labor functions, and that has already started happening. The worldwide labor force is the worldwide labor force capable to transition to the rate of low-level to higher-level labor substitutions required by industry. Will those who are unable or unwilling to find lower-level function employments suffer a lifetime of poverty? If, in fact, the top 1%, and I showed it to you in the other presentation, if, in fact, the top 1% global earners determine there is no need for the bottom 50% because they have enough labor in the middle, what are the lifestyle scenarios that the poor will be forced to succumb to? What if we take the UNOAS approach to develop partnerships in economic collaboration and capacity building? What if we allocate resources to build grassroots ecosystems to launch, leverage, and grow sustainable technology ventures in underserved communities? What if private capital strategies such as opportunity zones redirect private capital into impact enterprises? What if the poor help develop their own ventures in their own communities with their own human capital? What if it starts with us? Amen. It starts with our voices. Progress starts with our voices and our actions. At Medgar Evers College, we have many strategic partners in our ecosystem of community development. Our partner Customer Bank is delivering today a soft launch of a vision for community engagement, productivity, and growth through its model of multi-stakeholder collaborations. Speaking today on behalf of Customers Bank on the model and the new thought leadership on community economic development is Ms. Rock. Give her a hand, please.